take a look at today's papers. We're joined now by foreign policy writer Thom Woodroofe. Tom, good to see you again.
Good to see you. How are you?
Very well. Starting off with foreign policy, Julie Bishop has written an opinion piece. Now, this is sometimes a controversial thing when she does this.
It often is.
Often to do with authorship. Or at least
I don't think anyone would claim that this one's been plagiarised, though. Look, Julie Bishop's written an incredible love letter, basically, to Peter Costello, suggesting he should be considered for IMF chief, which nobody is talking about. It's incredibly indulgent, I must add.
Why is it indulgent?
He does have a background in helping he hosted the G20 finance ministers meeting. He's been a governor of the World Bank for a while. He's been on a advisory board of the World Bank for a few years now as well. But
it's qualifications, isn't it?
Exactly. For Australia to be running the line that this needs to be someone who's qualified, when you stand him up against Christine Lagarde, or you stand him up against the Turkish guy Kerman, and it just, it's no parallel at all. So it's an incredibly indulgent piece.
Oh, Tom, I don't know if I agree with your characterisation. She can surely make the argument. In fact, when it was, I think it was suggested by her last week, just in passing, consider Peter Costello. I remember thinking, why not? That's not a bad idea.
No, we had a very pressing viewer emailing into the show last week.
That's what it was, exactly. I'm sorry, I've misremembered. Indeed. So clearly the idea for the column has come from somewhere else. It's come from our viewer.
My personal view is that Christine Lagarde is the person who will get it.
Yeah,
but the problem is that countries like Australia are trying to walk two sides of the street by saying that it needs to be someone who's the most qualified through an accountable process in line with what they said at the G20 in 2009. The problem is that the person that's most qualified is Christine Lagarde, and she has two problems. The first is that she's European, and it's traditionally European, and that statement's designed to get someone not European generally.
Yes.
Though they do have a good claim, given they are the largest donor to the IMF. But the second problem she has is obviously that she's French, I think. Following DSK.
But this opinion piece, ostensibly about give the IMF to Costello, is really about something else, isn't it?
I think it's about showing that the coalition has the strongest economic credentials.
That's what this opinion piece is about. So if we were to set this as a little test for you at home, you VCE politics students, it's actually spruiking the case for the coalition when it comes to the economy.
Exactly.
And bashing up the government.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think he'll get a look in. He's certainly not on the top 14 list that most people are looking at.
Now, the Herald Sun has a story this morning which will warm the cockles of people's hearts out there, struggling with high interest rates, long working hours, high cost of living.
Yeah, these stories pop up all the time. It's effectively another report or another perspective on whether politicians should be paid more. I think the general consensus is largely that they should. The problem is really around entitlements. So a backbencher gets about $136,000 in salary, and then there are entitlements on top of that, some of which, if they're not spent, they can pocket. But these stories pop up in contrast to different things, and the angle the Herald Sun has taken on this is slightly misleading by saying that, for example, it characterises politicians as starting work at 10 a.m. when Parliament sits.
Can we get rid of that front page? It's totally distracting me with that stupid picture.
and Parliament now wanting to start at 12, but what they don't understand is that obviously politicians start well before Parliament sits, but also that with the negotiation with the independents resulted in Parliament sitting more, so there'd be more time for members' business. So in 4 days, they sit 40 hours generally, which is an incredible amount of actual time for Parliament to be sitting.
And because the situation in Parliament is so tight, pairs are restricted. There is limited scope for pollies to escape to the real world during sitting weeks.
Exactly. So these stories pop up. I guess yes, they have some substance, but I think generally there's pretty much a good view that politicians should be paid more.
They do.
If you want to attract
they certainly do work hard. Most of them anyway.
Yes,
they're playing to their readership though.
But that's not a general view. That's right. I mean, the general readership of the Herald Sun would not think that politicians need to be paid more.
I think if you outlined the case, they would, but the problem is that this article doesn't outline the case at all. It, as I say, characterises politicians as people who get taxpayer-funded cars to work, who start at 10 a.m, who want to start now at 12 p.m, those sort of things.
Gold passes, free travel, all of that.
Exactly, and even that, it's not given to every politician. You've got to serve for a long time, so it's a bit mischaracterising.
Yeah.
Herald Sun's also got a story on climate change.
Yeah, I wanted to basically flick through the response to the Commission's report that came out yesterday in the two major, News Limited papers. So the Herald Sun, firstly has a two-page spread on it. The key point there being the money up in smoke is the sort of key finding of the Commission. And the second one being, if you look at the Oz's front page, the quote there from Tim Flannery is that no one country can save our reef, which is sort of, one of the things that the Commission is trying to take out. So both feed into the News Limited campaign, obviously, against a carbon tax, but it's interesting that the coverage they've given it and the line they've put on it, whereas if you look at, for example, Fairfax, it's not on the front page, it's not on the first few pages at all, is via the other meter.
I just want to quickly share with you John Kudelka's view carbon. Can you zoom in even more tightly on that? Because to read the words of that is kind of crucial. That might be the closest you can get. The carbon price negotiations are clearly being done by crystal ball. And Julie Gillard's asking, OK, so what number am I thinking of? Bob Brown says, too low. And there in the corner wearing his Speedos and very hairy is Tony Abbott saying, too high.
Reflexively.
Fantastic. Kadelka is really killing it at the moment.
And that really sums it up.
Yeah, it does. But also, OK, what number am I thinking of now? Is I think, a brilliant way of summing up just how rubbery this whole notion seems to be.
Well, she might not even be thinking of a number. It might be determined by those two factors.
Well, exactly right. And I'm sure the economists and scientists are saying to her, look, if you want to achieve this outcome, it has to be this number. And the government's going, no, don't even mention that number around me. That number will get us voted out of office.
Yeah. Now, before we go, let's head back to Ireland. The Irish Times' take on the visit of that Paddy in the White House.
Hasn't it been incredible? The papers here, it was obviously too late in the day for us to get any photos, but the Irish Times has a great photo of Obama in the local pub in Moneygall having his Guinness, which he drank incredibly well. And I was saying earlier that it was a great contrast to the Queen and Prince Philip's visit to a pub last week.
Poor old Prince. Why didn't they let him pick it up?
The Queen, I think, should have had some.
Did you see he was dying to?
Yes.
The Duke of Edinburgh, his hand was almost out there grabbing it.
Yeah, but I think Obama did well to have a pint of Guinness and then go and give that keynote speech in the
And he said all the right things about Guinness tasting better in Dublin than it does in America and elsewhere.
Well done. No, he played the whole thing incredibly well, I think.
Yeah, so he's off to the UK now. The special relationship will play out there, no doubt.
Beautiful.
And then off to France.
Tom, always good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.